Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all on this warm June night. I just want to warn you, it may get a little hotter in here at times. Okay? Small part of every car is a spark plug. Seems somewhat insignificant, but it's really totally essential. And without it, the car won't work at all. Why? Because the spark plug ignites the engine, which gives the power to ultimately move the car, which is what cars are about. Well, let's apply that to marriage. You ever wonder what's the spark plug of passion in your marriage? Because there's a source to your marriage, like a spark plug. Do you know what it is? Sometimes marriages go through time where you lose that excitement in your relationship. And maybe you need a little motivation. Maybe that spark seems long ago and you'd like to get it back. Or the spark seems okay, but a stronger spark would be just fine. Well, it's possible if you know what to do. So if you've lost the passion, or if you just need a little more spark, it comes from the Lord, the divine mechanic. He wants to look under the hood tonight, and he wants to help you out. So before we go any further, what I'd like you to do is all stand up. And if your spouse is not here with you, I apologize, but I'm going to ask you to pray for each other. You can hold hands, or you can do like we do and just have a nice little prayer time. So each of you pray for each other, okay? When you're finished, you can go ahead and just sit down. So, if you're not a believer in Jesus, before he can really help your marriage, you need to allow him to help you. And so if you're not a believer, you're living independent of God, his moral laws, and basically you're fighting against the God that made you and who knows you and knows how life in marriage works. So I think probably all of you are Christians, but I don't know you all, and that's just the most important thing, that you know Jesus to make the marriage work, like Tuka basically said. If you're a believer, which seems like most of you are, if not all of you, I want to encourage you to ask God to reveal to you the areas that you need to work on in your marriage, and surrender to him and practice whatever he shows you needs to change. Then you'll sense his love and passion, and you'll have that love and passion for your spouse. The Bible is a picture of Christ wooing and preparing his bride. It's a great picture of marriage. And God gave us life abundantly. He doesn't want us to have a mediocre life or a mediocre marriage. He wants us to have a great one. So let's grab hold of that picture that God has for us.
So there's nothing like a fairy tale and that makes a little girl happy. So the handsome prince rides on the tall white horse and takes his young maiden, and they live happily ever after. Any girls here ever think of that? Be honest. Come on. Okay. I got one. Yay. I know. I thought about that. So the bride, dressed in that white dress, and Prince Charming romances you forever. Maybe you're married to Mr. Wonderful, but you've awakened and you're from your dream, and the prince that you married is not always Mr. Wonderful. Maybe you're here tonight and maybe you want to jump ship. Maybe you feel like you're on the Titanic and it's sinking. Maybe you've decided to settle just for seasick. I don't know. But let me encourage you just not to give up. Cinderella and all of the other fairy tales and the love stories, they ended in the wrong place. They ended at the beginning, right? Or, right when they get married. They never went through the marriage and all those fairy tales, did they? You didn't get to hear about that part in those beautiful stories. But the grand finale is always the wedding. And so no fairy tales ever dare go beyond the honeymoon, and they show us the rest of the story. Jeff and I, as Bob said, we've been married 33 years, and we've gone through all kinds of seasons of romance. So we wanted to share 3 of those seasons with you. And the first one is the new love. And we have someone here from that season, 2 months married. Yay, Maria and Kyle, come on, young love. And then the second one would be disappointed love. I'm not going to point to anyone because I don't know if anybody's in that stage, but there always is that little stage because there's times that happens. And the third one is committed love. And so our new love is it's delightful. It's kind of intoxicating. It's and here's an idea for you that may not be in that new love stage. Maybe you've been married 7 or more years or something. But I suggest that you take your video from your wedding. If you don't have a video, maybe you have audio, and listen to it together. And then just picture each other walking down the aisle, or picture, you walking and seeing them, and just the feelings that you had.
If they're watching video, they don't really have to picture it.
No, but if it's a cassette, we did this every year for our anniversary. And we had the cassette tapes. It was before videos were invented, right? And I know that sounds pretty sad. Of course, some of you guys were alive. But anyways, so we had a cassette tape. We'd always put it in our car, and every anniversary we would go and we would listen to what, just our whole wedding ceremony. And we talked a lot in our wedding. Some people, like my mom, said, wow, that's really interesting, after the wedding. So that is kind of an interesting comment. But anyway, so we did that and we loved it. So it just remembers those feelings that you had for each other. So that's my suggestion. But I'd like for you to take a moment now and just share with each other, or if you're alone, write it down, the most romantic thing that you and your husband did during that season of new love. The most romantic thing that you guys did during that just new love. And if you're engaged, you don't have that yet. So, so take a moment. Jeff, it's right over there. Okay, everybody had a moment to think of something. Jeff's passing out a little piece of paper and pencil for later. Yep, we found him. Yeah, okay. All right, so some of you are, as I said, still in that season of new love, but what's keeping you from enjoying something like this again that you just talked about? The second season of romance is the disappointed love, and every couple awakens from the fairy tale, and the honeymoon is over. And so sex doesn't happen as often, and you may be distracted. Maybe you've had kids, maybe you've got jobs and chores, and God allows those disappointments to bring us face to face with what we really believe and value so that we depend on Him. And we need His grace to continue in love as He intended it. So when you choose to take the high road and to trust God to rekindle your romance His way, you set your marriage on a course that is going to experience this third kind of love, which is an exciting season of romance. And that's the committed love. And it takes work for you, but it's worth the work. So if you don't work on your marriage will not work. If you don't work on your marriage will not work. And we always tell couples that because it's true. And we are still discovering it, but God gives us help in the scriptures. So committed love, it doesn't sound as romantic on the surface, but it's totally essential for the success in every marriage. And so genuine romance is not really possible without it, because the commitment begins, of course, at your wedding with your vows, and you commit to each other and you make pledges to each other and, of course, to God. But when we face disappointments, we need to decide again and again that we're going to live by those vows. And so we must choose commitment. And it's not just a one-time decision, it's a daily choice. And there's only one way to make a marriage and romance last, and it's true commitment to each other with no escape clause. And we always tell all our married couples that we do premarital counseling with is never use the D word, okay? Y'all know what that is, right? I'm not even going to say it because it's not an option, right? So we just don't ever talk about that. Your kids never hear you say that. It's just not an option. And so then the commitment creates just a big wall of protection around your marriage. And it also creates that security that allows you to discover love and romance in fresh ways. And it deepens your levels of intimacy and joy. So commitment provides the stability for intimacy to grow. And marriage also needs passion. And so you could say that commitment is like the tree, and passion is the luscious fruit that adorns the tree, but both are necessary. You need passion and you need commitment.
Okay, so we've been talking about all these things and spark plugs and all that. So what is the actual spark plug? A good marriage is physical, it's emotional, and it's spiritual. We need to keep on working on these, right? But one word, what's the spark plug? What do you think that word is? It's kind of the title. Intimacy. I know you don't want to look like silly. Okay, intimacy. Now, some of you probably just thought of sex. That's not bad, by the way. Okay? If you thought of sex, that's all right. I did. And I heard Josh McDowell say that sex in marriage is only about 10% of the marriage. But he also went on to say, oh, what a 10%. And he said it just like that, too. So on a scale of 10, don't say this out loud now, I want you to rate your intimacy or your sex life, okay? Just think about it. You can talk about it later. Engaged couples, much later, all right? And then I want you to think, what would your spouse say? And it's just something that, if you're comfortable, you share, Now, if let's say you thought it's a 10 and you thought your spouse thought it was a 10 and they thought, if you got 4 10s, we can leave and you can come on up and help us out here. Just, But here's something really interesting to think about. And maybe you've never thought about it this way, but before you married, Satan wanted you to have sex. There's all this pressure, and that's all you guys, wanted to, right? Come on, be honest. After you're married, Satan wants you to not have sex. And he's going to do whatever he can to keep you from having sex. It's crazy. The purpose of marriage is not sex, it's oneness. That's just a part of it. But it's oneness, being one. The purpose of marriage is oneness, and sex is a beautiful picture of this. It's God's idea. Of course, only in marriage. Well, sex is looked at in 3 different ways. It's looked at as something from God, it's looked at something gross, or it's looked at as something as a gift. As a God. In the United States, for example, $3,000 is spent on pornography every second. Probably more. 28,000 viewers, more than this. More than 28. When they did this was a couple years ago. 28,000 viewers on the internet any second, just in the U.S., looking at porn. Some say sex is gross. Some people, they grow up in churches, and churches say sex is bad, it's evil. And, I don't know where the idea, you look at the guys in the Bible, how many of them are single? But some churches teach the priest must be single, Some people have been abused, and they still struggle with sex. And I want to tell you, God can still heal you. It's possible. You might need some counsel. You might need some help. The third one we'll talk about a little bit more, is sex is a gift. It's God's idea. Only in marriage. Out of marriage, it's wrong. To me, it's like, if I had a potted plant in here and I could say, look at this potted plant and look at the soil it's in. It's rich, it's nutritious, it's helping this plant grow and be healthy. But if I took that same soil and dumped it on the ground, it becomes dirt. And it's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sex in the right place at the right time is so wonderful. In the wrong place, it's dirt. So, there's three main parts to this gift. The first one is pleasure. That's actually the main one, I think. Song of Solomon, which if you've never read together, I encourage you. There's, I think, 8 chapters. Read a chapter a night, okay? It will not hurt your romantic life. But Song of Solomon never talks about sex as producing kids. It's always about pleasure. Second one is children. The third one is this whole idea of oneness. It's about oneness. If you've been through if you've been unfaithful through either an affair or pornography, I want to encourage you to find either a man or a woman that you can confide in and seek counseling. Because if you're in that or you haven't been healed from that, it will destroy your marriage. It really will. And so you need help. And you need to get it. And have somebody that you trust to hold you accountable. I know men that have taken this step. And it's hard, and they have to confess to their wives the process, but you can be healed from that as well. So the spark plug of marriage is something that people forget. How do you get this intimacy? Okay, I've mentioned the S word a couple times here, but there's something even more important that I think is lacking to get to that point. And so this is the word I want to talk about even more, and that's affection. Affection for each other. Because intimacy is not just sex, but it's this whole idea of affection. Let me talk about that and explain that. You must give and receive affection if you want passion and excitement to continue and grow deeper in your marriage. Now you may be wondering, what do you mean, affection? How's that going to fix anything? Well, I want to share some examples from the Word of God that will reveal the importance of affection in our relationships. Can you get my Bible in the pocket there, please? So intimacy really starts with affection. I want you to think back. Before you were married, hopefully there was no sex. There was just affection, right? I mean, there was lots of affection. So where'd it go once you got married? Okay, we need to continue to have it. Paul said to us in Romans chapter 12, verse 10, thank you, be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love. Okay? So the idea is towards others, other believers. Of course, this is even more important in our own marriages. Many couples seem to rarely touch and hold one another, but as an opportunity to ask for sex. And so let there be affectionate, non-sexual touching as an essential part of any healthy marriage. Bonnie and I, we lived for 2 years in Papua New Guinea. This was 86 to 88. It's been a while. But in Papua New Guinea, you do not hold hands in public. And so for 2 years, we couldn't hold hands. When we moved back, we weren't like, oh my gosh, we can do this? You know, it was
so
kind of
exciting.
You know, I mean, come on, think back. You kind of remember the first time it was like, you know, calm down. But, yeah, it was just a weird thing. But affection for one another should be a motivating factor in our lives together, not just when you want sex. Think about those affectionate embraces with your mate. How much touching is there in your relationship? Holding, kissing in your relationship. Affection. If they're missing, then that spark plug is not working properly. And if you're married and you have kids, do your kids see the affection? Okay? I'm not talking about heavy makeout session, okay, in the kitchen, but affection. You know, you get home from work and you kiss each other and you hug each other. And, you know, as a matter of fact, let's just try a little practice one right now, okay? There you go. Come on. We're getting there. That's later.
Okay.
And we're not going to practice that.
No, I know.
Okay. Did you see anybody kiss?
Come on.
Okay. All right. Make sure you kiss your own spouse. Okay. I don't have to say that to you. We live in Mexico, and you greet everybody with a kiss. You know. I mean, guys and girls, girls and guys. Okay. Well, we must be doing a good job here. All right. Actually, this affection that you show each other if you have kids gives great security to your kids. Okay, it's an awesome thing. Stats say that couples spend about 4 minutes a day actually having meaningful conversation. 4 minutes. Okay. Wow, you're thinking, I doubled that today. You know, but we need to work on that. You know, it's hard. Paul demonstrated that the real problem in Corinth with sexually passionless marriages, so he commands them in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 3, to demonstrate their affection towards each other to remedy the problem. This is what he said. 1 Corinthians 7, 3.
No, that's Romans.
Let the husband render to his wife the affection due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. Again, that key word, affection. Paul believed there must be a mutual expression of real affection during sexual relations to keep this part of the marriage alive. Many just do their duty, and they go through the motions, and there's no passion or affection. And while engaged in this way, affection while engaged in sexual intimacy is what makes the sexual act what God intended it to be. Without affection, it's like, what's her name? Tina Turner, you know? It's just physical. You know, it's just a physical act. And your spouse can even feel used without this affection. Many don't realize the word affection means here to show goodwill or kindness. In fact, ill will or unkindness in your relationship will quench that affection and that passion. Have you ever been mad at each other and had sex? Then you know that this without affection is very unsatisfying. The intimate time is missing and the spark plug of affection is gone. By the way, here's a little test. When's the best time to begin sex? Okay. I know the guys are thinking all the time. Okay, 5 minutes before. Okay, I'm going to give you some choices here. 25 minutes before, 5 hours before, or D, all of the above. What's the right answer? How many say A, 5 minutes before? Okay, anyhow, you don't have to raise your hand. Just keep in mind that men are like microwaves and women are like crock pots. And so it doesn't hurt. Can you start too early? Can you?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Start in the morning. And might just help you get home from work faster. I don't know. So let me, I gave you a piece of paper and a pencil. And you can share it with each other. Tear the paper in half, or I have some extra papers here. I want you to come up with some creative, clean ideas of how you can just nicely, romantically help people, show affection towards each other during the day. Okay? And then I'm gonna collect these and read them. So you can put your name on it if you want. I won't read your name even if you do. But just some nice things. So think about that.
Yeah, I have more.
Who needs more paper? Anybody want one? Who wants like 10 pages? Bob wants 10 pages. You're gonna write a lot, Bob. I know.
Okay, the assignment one more time.
Okay, so ways to show affection during the day. especially if you're thinking that that night might be the night, okay? Ladies might have completely different ideas than men. That's why we need to talk about some of this stuff once in a while. Okay? So we're going to collect those in a little bit so you can be writing while we're talking, and that's not rude at all. Okay.
Me.
No, we're done.
No. Oh, look. Go up.
I'm going.
Keep going.
We're already. Oh, sorry.
Okay. So I read an article, and it was entitled "How to Romance a Woman," and the answer. I'll just read some of the answers from this article. It said, wine her, dine her, call her, cuddle her, surprise her, compliment her hair, shop with her, never, listen to her talk, buy her flowers, hold her hand, write her love letters, and be willing to go to the end of the earth and back for her. What do you think of that, ladies?
How about Finland?
Go to Finland and back for her. That's pretty nice things, huh, women? We like that. All right. Okay, so here, men, the story continued, and it says how to romance a man. Now, do you think there's that many things? Please. The article said 2 things. See if you can guess these 2 things. Well, you may not guess them, so I will tell you. Arrive naked, bring food. Okay, there you go. So, a woman's picture of romance tends to revolve around her emotional needs. Okay, and it's our thirst for a relationship. Okay, we want a relationship with our husband. It's a package deal. Okay, it's like going on a cruise. You don't just go on a cruise, but you get all the food and the entertainment and all the fun with it. It's just not get on that ship and there's nothing else there. And so, so the difference with a man, he pursues romance based on his sexual passion, and a wife goes after it for a relationship. Men give love to get sex. Women give sex to get love. Our marriages should be more mature than that. And so true love is about giving and not getting. So, you might ask your spouse, what can I do that's romantic for you tonight? Have you ever thought about that question?
And then be ready to do it if they give you an answer.
Yes, and don't say, no way, forget that, honey.
Every time I ask Bonnie that question, I'm just going to warn you guys. If you ask the question, you're going to end up washing the dishes every night, okay? But
so romantic.
I must admit, it does work, so it's not so bad. You're still on.
Well, no, you already did that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, you still writing?
Anyways, just anything that can stir up that affection, that kindness. Give ideas so that you can share with each other, because we want to say, hey, that's what they did, and you don't need to write your name on it, just ideas that stir up that affection and kindness.
Okay, so here's some thoughts. First of all, we need to remember God's kindness towards us when we think about our relationship with each other. God's kindness towards us and his love for us will soften our heart towards our spouse if there's any hardness at all. Philippians 2:1, which we read at our wedding. If there's any consolation in Christ, any comfort of love, any fellowship of the Spirit, if any affection, there's our word again, and mercy, fulfill my joy by being like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. Notice what Paul declares should be in you. Comfort of his love, his affection, and his mercy. How much kindness and mercy has God shown you? Okay? And as we remember that, hopefully it'll help us extend that, especially to the one we love the most. So let's ask the Lord to help us remember that. Secondly, and I think Tuka prayed this, or maybe we prayed it before, but we need to be filled with the Holy Spirit. I said earlier we need to be saved, but we need to be filled. We need to be Spirit-filled to treat our wives. How do we, what's the Bible say our job is, men? We're to love our wives how? Okay, unconditionally. And who's our example? As Christ loved the church. Holy moly. Okay? How in the world are we supposed to ever, men? Anybody do that for like an hour, even? Ever? I mean, okay? But that's what, and God's not going to tell us to do something, and just laugh at us. So he's saying, we need to be spirit-filled to love our wives in the right way. And it's a challenge, a lifelong challenge.
And wives, we need to be spirit-filled to do our job, which is to respect and honor and submit. So that takes a lot of spirit filling. So the third one is to choose to forgive. And maybe some of you are the same as me and you resist asking for forgiveness because you can't give what you don't have. Oh, wait. Sorry. But did you realize that you can't resist or you can't be resentful and affectionate at the same time? So being resentful and being affectionate doesn't go together. And so
that means what you're saying is sex when you're mad doesn't work?
No.
Okay.
So without truly a forgiving heart, you can't expect God to answer this prayer or any prayer. Jesus said in Mark, and this is what he said in Mark 11:25 through 26. He said, whenever you stand praying, if you have anything against anyone, forgive him, that your Father in heaven may also forgive your trespasses. But if you do not forgive, neither will your Father in heaven forgive your trespasses. That's Mark 11:25 through 26. And so really without forgiving, you can't expect to see changes in that level of kindness and affection if you have that unforgiving and bitterness still in your heart. And so why is it so important? Forgiveness is the only thing that truly will soften a hardened heart. So if your heart is feeling hard, that forgiveness is the thing that's going to soften it. And I love Ephesians 4:32. It's the greatest verse. It says you have to be kind to one another, tender-hearted, and forgiving one another, even as God in Christ has forgiven you. So we have to do that. Be kind, tender-hearted, and forgiving.
I heard just recently somebody said that marriage is an opportunity to learn how to forgive. And if we don't do that, because how often do we need to forgive each other? At least once a day, probably. I mean, it just happens. Things. Why'd you do this? Why'd you do? How come? And it just happens. And if there's no forgiveness, man, it's gonna be one rocky road.
So how do we be more tender-hearted? Well, that whole attitude of the heart comes directly from forgiveness. And then we have to remember that Jesus has forgiven us. So to just choose to forgive and let go of our resentments, that's really important. And it's kind of like we have that little mentor ledger in our mind. Anybody have a little checklist? Did that once, did that? Oh, you did it again. Have anybody ever done that? I have, I know. So we just have to erase that little mental ledger and give our spouse the same grace that we have received. Because we've received grace from the Lord. Why do we keep a little mental ledger with our spouse, right? Because we're the closest to him and that's the one we argue with the most. So why is it so important to make forgiveness a way of life? Well, here's a little assignment for you. You can name one offense that you've been harboring against your spouse and then seek his forgiveness. And you don't have to tell them unless you want, but you can. But just think of one thing that you've been harboring and then really pray about seeking forgiveness. So seeking reconciliation. So once you've forgiven, you need to go, as I said, and then seek that reconciliation for your past resentments. And how to demonstrate that you've truly forgiven and desire to renew the spark and the loving affection between you two needs to start with if you start with your failure to love instead of pointing out his or her faults. So if you just come up and say, you did this, how does that work? Not so good. So we need to really start with our faults and confess our trespasses to one another. It says in James 5:16, I love this verse, confess your trespasses to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. And do you remember the verse that says you have to first remove the plank out of your own eye before you can really see clearly the speck in your brother's eye? That's from Matthew 7:5. And so many times when you begin with your personal confession to your mate, then naturally they step forward and want to forgive, and you have that reconciliation. So if you really desire to truly renew the affection between you, then forgiveness and reconciliation are definite prerequisites to that, both forgiveness and then reconciliation.
So after these steps, then we need to start showing that affection that we talked about. Okay, light the fire. Who's supposed to take the first step? You are. Okay, don't wait for your spouse to do it. Okay, I will say, men, we are the spiritual leaders of the relationship, so we have a little extra responsibility. But really, ladies, I'm telling you, don't wait. If your husband is a little prideful or whatever, take that first step. Show some affection. Will there be the response that you want? Maybe not. Some of you see the movie Fireproof? Okay? All right. Good movie. I liked it. Remember when the husband was trying to get the wife back? Okay, it seemed a little late, but he started making attempts, and he went out and bought her flowers. Remember that poor excuse for flowers? Okay? I mean, if you're going to show some affection, don't make a halfway deal about it, I mean, he bought her, like, flowers that were already 3 days old or something like that, It doesn't work that way, okay? You're just going to offend them even more. But realize that there's maybe been some hardness built up. And so all of a sudden you're changing. Doesn't mean they are yet. It could take some time, okay? The little fireproof thing is, 40 days? Okay? Well, some people might need 400 days. Hopefully 40 will work, but hey. Jesus said, therefore, what you want men to do to you, do also for them, for this is the law and the prophets. Love stirs up love. We know 1 Corinthians 13, love never fails. All right? Now, obviously, there's failures. Why? Because there wasn't love the whole time. Okay? And just because you started up, sometimes, we get started late. But God will work. And if we're faithful, He can help us. We start speaking kindly to our spouse, and they'll be more likely to speak kindly back to us. If we demonstrate affection, then hopefully it'll help them to want to be more affectionate. If you give sincere affection during intimacy as well, your mate will more likely want to be affectionate with you. So just be patient with each other. Okay, is this where we do the ideas? Mm-hmm. Or is it later?
Right here.
Oh, right there, huh? Let's see. You want to do it right now?
Sure.
You want to collect the papers?
Okay. So any ideas that you have, I'll collect, and we can all share something else. Okay. And we'll share ideas with each other. Now, we don't have to say names.
And if we gave you a pencil and you really, really want it, you can have it. But if you don't really need it, then we can have it for other exercises some other time. Bob wrote a book. All right. So, you want to look at some?
Sure.
Wow, some of you guys wrote books too. Okay. Did any of you write and finish? If you wrote and finished, I might need some help.
Okay. Go.
I think they know
So-
about that's fun. Okay.
I'll say one, you say one. We'll go back and forth.
Okay.
Okay, so we need to listen, we need to smile, and say kind words.
All right.
Important tips.
I'm already sure this one's written from a girl because she said dishes. Okay, bad idea. Taking out the trash. How romantic is that? Okay. But you don't think that's romantic, but I mean, those are the little things. It's like the husband's taking care of those things. I'm just going to go through a couple other ones here. Hug, compliments, foot massage, definitely a woman. Tell your spouse you love them, okay? How often does your spouse want to hear that? Do you think? Huh? You reading a good one?
Yeah, this is cute.
Okay, how often do you want to hear me tell you I love you?
Every few minutes.
Okay, well that might be a little much. But once a day is not too much. Some people, they say, well, I grew up in a home we never said I love you. Well, you can learn those 3 words, can't you? They're important. Say it. Make dinner. Gosh, definitely a woman. Okay.
Okay. Ask your wife how her day was and how she feels. So just communicate. Let's see. Be interested in your wife's life and interests. Take care of your wife in every way, and buy a frozen yogurt machine.
Little hint. Maybe there's a birthday coming up. It's a long way till Christmas. I think yesterday was 6 months till Christmas, so hopefully the birthday's sooner. Am I going?
Sure.
Okay. I'm getting old here, guys. Anybody got reading glasses? Make coffee and breakfast in the morning, and then actually clean the dishes. Wow. Okay, so breakfast in bed might work. As long as they don't make a huge mess in the bed and they get you upset. Pray with her before leaving the house. Okay, really good idea. And let her know that she looks beautiful. And that's hard for me to read this, sorry. And then call during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Or text, or however your preference of communication. All right, just say, hey, I miss you, I love you. Okay? It's going to help that night, I'll tell you. Okay.
So mine also says call or text during the day, and I think that's all about oneness. If you're one, well, of course
You're
you want to
thinking
tell
of each other.
Yeah, you want to tell the other person what you're doing, and I love you. And then wear sometimes the clothes I like and look charming. So think about what the other person likes.
We're going to talk about that in just a moment, too. Holding hands, all right? Again, we talked about that. But go for walks and hold hands together, okay? You ever see old people? We're not old, but I mean old people holding hands, and you say, oh, isn't that cute? Is that going to be us? Okay, hopefully that will be you, okay? So it's a good thing. Public affection, all right? And I can't read that, but kisses and hugs, compliment her, recognize the things he or she does, encourage them. This is a good list. You might want this one back. Speak well of them in front of others, okay? Do things, apologize and forgive. Okay, you can go. I'm gonna look at
this person has definitely the touch. Hugging, gentle touch, and massage. I'll read one more. Hug and care daily and make dinner. I like that one.
Okay. Gentle touching, breakfast, kisses, sweet messages, compliments, deep conversation. Okay. I'm not sure if those guys are very capable of that, but we could try, right?
But this is what we like, right, ladies? Keep it coming, men.
Well, a good question is for us guys to ask, and then we just need to be calm enough to actually listen. How are you feeling today? Okay? We want to get in touch with our wives' feelings, right, men? Kind of? Okay. Hopefully we do. We need to listen.
Yeah, but the thing is are they going to listen, and can we actually say it? Because what Jeff wants is on a scale of 1 to 10. How am I feeling? 2. Okay, that's it. You've said enough words.
As long as you don't interrupt my TV show when you answer it.
And I like to talk a lot and go on and on and on, and he's like, so.
It's good for us to go for a walk or a run, and then.
So that we have plenty of time, so I can ramble.
You're admitting you ramble?
Yes.
That's recorded. Okay, this is good.
Okay, and this says small notes on the table or around the apartment, kisses, and what does that say?
To the neck. Yeah.
To neck
or
and arms when passing. Oh, how sweet.
Like
and then hugs now and then.
Flowers. You know what's cool about Finland in the summer? You don't even have to buy flowers. You can just cut them, and I mean, there's some gorgeous flowers on the side of the road. Now, don't get the dead ones though, but flowers, and if you spend a little money, okay, I was just talking about somebody. Oh, Bob was telling me about Ansi, okay, and you guys all know him, right? Okay, so he's over in California, all Google-eyed with this Chelsea Moon girl. and Bob says, like, he's staying 30 minutes away from her house, I guess at your parents' house. He goes, oh, just down the road about 30 minutes. And
We're going down the road.
30 minutes?
That's like in another city.
That's forever away. But you know what? When you're in love, it's nothing, right? So, oh my gosh, I got to spend €5 on flowers? They're just going to die. They're already dead. They just, Well, is your wife worth it, guys? Once in a while? And not just like on Mother's Day or whatever. Okay.
Be gentle, make me feel special, and don't say you want to sleep after sex. Okay. That was direct.
Okay, here's one.
Are you done with these?
Flash him. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but if it means what I'm thinking it means, it might work.
Woo!
Okay. And another one about dressing up nice. Okay.
He's getting red.
But maybe it's maybe it has something to do with your cell phone. And Okay. See, it's a good thing you wrote these because I couldn't have come up with some of these. Okay, I think we're back to the first one. Are you good?
Okay, we're good.
All right. We should just pass these back out and let whoever random get, Here's your new list. Here's your homework assignment.
Really?
Okay. We had a couple of things. Here's one that nobody said. Date night. Okay, Bonnie and I tried really hard to do a date night every week. When you have kids, it's even more important. It doesn't have to be at night. It could be during the day. It could be breakfast. But you need to have like a couple hours together. Okay? Every week where it's just calm, cool, and collected. Bonnie and I don't like going to movies for that time. If you only got a couple hours to talk and you're in a movie, you're probably not talking much. So we encourage you to try and work that out. If finances are tight, find another couple and just trade kids with them, Go on vacations together. And we always tried to do, and I'm pretty sure we were successful. Every year we did a vacation without our kids. Now, it was very easy for us. My parents would almost pay us to watch our kids, Like, oh, good, we'll go on a bigger vacation since you're giving us money to watch our kids. And I realize it's not always so easy. And maybe your kids aren't super easy to take care of and no one wants to watch them for a week. But
even just one night is really important. When you have kids, just do it. So.
Take your wife out for coffee and rehearse for her the first day you met. Do you remember that far back? Okay, include details. What she was wearing. Am I stealing your stuff here? What she was wearing, what her hair looked like, the glow in her eyes. Okay, man, you may not want to go there if you don't remember any of that. Okay, just how she made you feel, and then ask her to tell her side of the story. Okay, demonstrate commitment. That's what we talked about. This third phase is committed love. It's one thing to spark a fire. It's another thing to keep the fire going. Okay, now this should be an easy question. Men, if you got a little fire burning and it starts to go out, what do you need to do to make it keep going?
Wood.
Okay, you need to add fuel to the fire, right? If you don't add fuel to the fire, what's going to happen?
Guys.
Okay, if you just let it sit there, it's going to go out. Okay, that's what happens in our walks with the Lord, in our marriages. That fuel, that fire is going to go out. A fire will naturally go out unless it gets more fuel. So how do we do that? Some men say, "Oh, I'm a real man, and I've had all these women," But a real man is one who can please his wife for the rest of their lives. Please his wife by their actions, by their words. So make the full effort. Guys, your wife will know if you're not really trying. God himself verbalized his commitment to his people over and over. And so we need to use our words, men. And yeah, they say women talk 300 times more than men or something like that. But we need to use our words at times, guys. And we need to say those words that somebody wrote down, I love you, okay? Maybe you're thinking, when was the last time I said that to my spouse? Well, before you go to sleep tonight, make sure you say those words, okay? Is this where we are? Mm-hmm. Okay, here's some really practical things. If you want to write these down, you can. Prayer is a super important thing in any marriage. You pray together, you stay together. And prayer is actually very intimate. About 12 years ago, I had back surgery. And every day I was supposed to do all these stretching things and stuff. And I usually do them before I even got out of bed. And Bonnie's like, well, I'm not as old and decrepit as you, but I'll stretch with you in the morning. And then while we were stretching, we would pray together. And I have a little confession. It didn't hurt our sex life. Okay? And look at her smiling. Okay? I don't know if that recorded, but it's okay. You'll just have to wonder. And you know what? God loves it. And so do we. Men, another practical one. Remember, crock pot. Okay? And women, remember, microwave. And so, you know, we talked about some of these ideas to kind of get the crock pot going a little faster and maybe helping the microwave, so we're all on the same page. Good job, by the way, with all those answers. Appreciate that. I mentioned date night without the kids. And I want to encourage you men, again, spiritual leader of the family, take the lead on this. Okay? Maybe you arrange for the babysitter. Maybe you help get, you know, the dinner ready or kids dressed. And maybe you get home later than your wife, so you ask them to help with that so you can get home and do it. But, you know, make it a priority and work hard at it. And I think it's good. If your kids are young, make sure they have an early bedtime once in a while. And something that Bonnie appreciated more than I did, but it was a good idea. It turned out to be good for me. Get a lock on your bedroom door. If you don't have one, they don't cost that much. They're worth it.
Especially when you have teenagers. You just don't want the teenagers walking in on you.
You don't?
No. You do not.
Okay. You're here.
So just important little things. No one said anything about setting the mood for intimacy and lighting candles. You know, that can just be the sign you light the candle, you know, and let them know, hi, honey, I'm ready for you. Put on music. And ladies, amazing what you wear, the right nightie. You wear it, you don't wear it, whatever, it works.
Well, you just wear it for a short time.
Exactly. And so last summer we were house sitting in a big mansion, just a real big house in Santa Barbara. And we let our friends who were coming to visit, and Jeff was the best man in the wedding, and so we let them stay in the guest suite, the husband and wife suite. And we said, oh, and the shower's huge. There's like three. Why three? I don't know. Anyways, there's all these faucets. You can all shower together, all in the family. And he looks at us. She wasn't there at the moment because he told him, and he's like, oh, she would never do that. And I was like, what? And so, well, he told you.
Yeah.
But
they've been married over 25 years.
Yeah.
And he was really bummed, you know.
So I just think it's important, you know, especially if they would like to do that, your husband and wife. I don't think it's that hard here with all your sauna time in Finland. But anyway, so that was, you know, something that
Go ahead and
we were
read
sad.
that one.
So Paul reminds us that we are not our own, and in our marriage, my body is or my wife's or my husband's body, and hers is mine. So we are one. And God made male and female, and all that, the plumbing fits together, and he said, it is very good.
Okay, here's another idea. Men, bathe, shave, and dress how your wife likes.
Just like someone said.
Okay? Now, some of you might be looking at me and saying, when was the last time you shaved, Jeff? And Bonnie even has said on our way over here, you didn't shave. Did you forget? I said, no. I'm going to shave when we get home. Then it'll be even smoother. Right, honey? Okay. But really, you think about it. Do I dress for myself? Most of the time, yeah. But I need to, we need to think about, how does my wife like me to look? Ladies, you can ask the same thing, and just consider each other when you make your choices like that. So yeah, and a brave question would be, is there anything in this area you'd like me to change? Okay? And I'm guessing there's a few t-shirts some of you ladies would probably just as soon burn that you're okay? I'm not sure it'll work, but you can try it. All right, number 6, kiss. Okay? We kind of did one already, so let's just try one more. You guys too, come on. Okay? They say every kiss burns 2 calories. Okay? Some kisses, Wesley, burn much more than that. Okay? And here's okay, Bonnie mentioned this earlier. She was kind of jumping the gun. But I was driving in my car, listening to some Campus Crusade thingy, and this guy was on the radio saying, this is one of the most amazing advices I've ever gotten for marriage. And it's called the 10-second kiss. Okay?
Only for married couples.
Yes, for marriage.
No,
Okay.
100% not engaged.
Okay, so you're saying don't do this. Okay, sorry guys. How many seconds do they get? Okay. We're not going there. But anyhow, the idea is that once every day, enjoy a 10-second kiss. Okay? Every day for the rest of your married life. I heard about this, 7 years ago? And unless one of us are sick, that's what we do. And it's awesome, and yeah, sometimes other things happen. Okay? Now, let me give you a hint, though, especially if you wear a watch. Okay? Don't do this. Don't look at the watch while you're kissing, okay? It kind of, for some reason, just loses...
It's still going.
Okay?
Still going.
And,
Still going. Stop.
okay. But I'll tell you, I encourage you, seriously, for 7 years we've been doing this. And if you heard nothing else, and you just do a 10-second kiss every day, okay, probably not, on the street corner, but it's a good thing. Go ahead.
And then in Song of Solomon, as Jeff said, you guys should read that. But in that book, the woman in that story actually initiates sex. And so, woman, it's okay. It's
Amen.
even biblical to initiate sex. And I bet your husband would probably be happier.
Happy to help it.
Happy to help, yeah. So.
Okay, so how's that spark plug doing? Okay, got some of the carbon off it. Let me just encourage you. You all have homework. Well, almost all. Sorry. And the homework, if it has to be done tonight or it's late. Okay? So, let's stand up together again. And I want you to pray for each other again. And one of the things that's really important, pray every day together, okay? And so I know couples sometimes don't do that, so at least you pray twice a day. But pray one for each other, okay?